welcome to the Intuitive Messenger channel. I am Mitchell, and this is an interview series with Mark Troy, the psychic medium. Hello, Mark. How are you doing tonight?
Great. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Well, for those of you who know, we've been chatting just a little bit briefly before we got on here, kind of talking about where we're going to head with this. And I'm so excited because Mark's going to do a whole lot more talking than I do. And this is just water. This is just water, people. So, Mark, tell us just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and you know, kind of what got you to this place of the work that you do.
Okay, so basically, I'm a psychic medium by trade. I consider myself an evidential medium. So I focus more or less on the evidence of whoever the spirit is coming through. I try to give some kind of, personality, physical characteristics, some memories, stuff like that, so you have some good evidence. And then I provide messages to those who are interested in spirit contact and hearing from their loved ones. I consider myself a life coach. I have also experience in psychology, so I have a lot of diverse methodologies, ideologies, and all those good things. And I'm also a Reiki practitioner, although I don't really do it a whole lot. Yeah, so I have all those good things going on too. So basically, go ahead.
Tell me now, like with the evidential mediumship, that's something that a lot of people don't hear, and you pretty much touched on it. Now, when I think of that, I think of like the Spiritualist Church. Are you connected to the Spiritualist Church?
No, I actually, my church is basically outside. I always say that.
Yeah.
But I'm very much, I've studied a lot. I've gone to different Spiritualist churches. I've collaborated with some of the Arthur Finlay people, and they're so they're very evidential, and they're UK, and so I got to see the best of both worlds being in the United States. Mediums I find in America are really, they are evidential, but you'll find a lot of just message-based mediums. Yeah. And then as you go overseas to the UK, you see a lot more evidential mediums than as opposed to here. So there's not one way to do things, and there's no one's wrong necessarily. It's just it depends on what you're looking for. Yeah. So I'm always a student. I'm always looking at different mediums, how they work. I've always kind of looked at the ones even throughout history. Yeah. So literally, when I'm not doing readings, I'm pretty much devoting a lot of hours to either reading up. And studying a video or getting my own readings to look at anybody from all types of levels, whether it's, I think from what we do, we have classes. There's the upper class, the ones that are celebrities. We have sort of the middle class, and then we have ones that kind of do it part-time here and there. Yeah. And I think there's something to learn at all the levels. So yeah. I continually try to hone my craft that way. And networking and studying and trying to get better and better as I go on.
I know it's funny because I'll start watching like the Long Island Medium a couple years ago, and I'm loving it, I'm enjoying it, and then all of a sudden I find myself I'm studying her, and I try to avoid being critical on her, but because I do realize it is still entertainment. I realize it's on TV, it is entertainment, and I realize we sometimes do have to entertain that person sitting in front of us, but I'm like you. I always I'm telling Spirit, like, if you don't give me something positively evidential, I don't want to just say he's saying he loves you. I I understand mediums do that. Yeah. But I want you to know I'm talking to dead dad before I start telling you he loves you and he's giving you a hug and he's giving you a kiss, because for me those things don't always mean as much if they haven't fully, I don't want to say bought in, but fully believed you're connected. And I love that the evidential aspect. So how did you get here? Did you grow up in a conservative environment? If you did, grow up in a conservative environment, which I kind of did, first time I went to a Spiritualist Church, I remember going, oh my God, this is crazy, but it was fun because they're standing up there, speaking, talking, teaching Word of God, and all of a sudden, may I come to you? I have a message. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm at home, but the organized religion for me still, it's good. I don't poo-poo it, but for me, just like you said, my church is this, me and you, and my blog talk radio, and so tell us what got you here and what kind of a background you had.
So I say yes to all those things. I grew up in a kind of a rough environment, honestly. I grew up in the inner city of Chicago. Wow. My home life was very stressful, and I didn't know that I was different, but I really was. And when I was 3 years old, my grandma on my father's side passed away, and I didn't know how significant that was until later on doing this work. But I remember, it's one of my most vivid memories. And I know people are like, how could you remember this at 3 years old? But I swear to you, I remember how I was laying in my bed at 3 years old. I remember the time. It was about 5 o'clock. It was winter, and I sat up in my bed, and I looked to a couple rooms over where my dad's room is, and I saw a lady in white. And the look of her was much younger than my grandma would have been, but the feeling was grandma, and she kind of, mouth kind of opened almost like an awe, and she started to disappear. And me being 3 years old, this is really strange too, and I kind of myself, maybe if I looked the other direction, she'll come back and I can look at her at the corner of my eye. Well, and she did. And we did this several nights, and I would go to my dad. I don't know why I chose that. Intuitively, I just felt Dad, and I said, Grandma's there, and he's like, no, there's no heaven, there's no hell. He was a very logical man. He believed in the paranormal. He believed in ghosts, and he believed I was seeing a ghost. He believed it was like an evil ghost. So he really, said yes, but be careful. And my mom wasn't really having anything of it. But as time went on, my dad was very much into paranormal TV shows. He listened to Coast to Coast all the time. And I remember being 3, 4, 5, 6 years old and watching Unsolved Mysteries and all these things, watching the psychic detectives, and seeing all the people using the rods, the stuff and all that. And I remember, and now I look back today, three and a half decades later, and I'm looking them up and oh my gosh, these are one of the most popular people we've ever heard of, Edgar Cayce's, and this, that, the other. And so it's all sort of like a big pieces to a puzzle. I was in a Catholic school. I went to Catholic school for grade school. So I guess but religion was never talked about in my house. My mom was Catholic, but Catholic, and the school instilled fear. And that was the religious ideology that we were kind of taught. And I was so consumed with all the animosity or the problems going on in the family life that I was totally stressed out, consumed in anxiety. So although I was having all these spirit experiences, hearing her stomp around upstairs and hearing her, all kinds of great things, I was terrible at school. I couldn't focus. And so really my ability, not knowing what it is, really created this anxiety, and I did terrible. And so as I went into my teenage years, I lost it. I lost it completely. The stress and anxiety closed off my power, so to speak. And I wouldn't get it back until I dated someone who was really a medium, was into Wiccan and stuff like that, was really, acquainted. And I had a little shift there. And, I had a bell ring in my head, like, oh my gosh, there's something going on here. I read, Sylvia Brown book for the first time, cover to cover in a night, which I heard for someone who's a bad student. And then, eventually I had my first reading, and it was from a very famous psychic detective. And he basically looked at me and said, you can do this too if you want to. And I was only 20 years old. I was like, no. Even though I was like, I wish. And he's like, I can give you the gift. Well, no one can give you the gift, He was so old school, but the fact that, I came
for a price, or was it for?
Yeah, I mean, he charged, $50, but I'm getting a guy who was solving, we're talking hundreds of police cases. So he was very decorated, and he was very referred, and he was good. He predicted that I would go into martial arts, which I did, which I rolled my eyes at the time. I had it was the last thing. He said I would meditate. I was like, guy, you are so off. I want to go party. Like, that's the last thing I want to do. And he said,
you got me thinking, wondering who it is. And my first thought is John.
No, it's a guy named Bill Ward. He wouldn't mind me saying his name, but if you ever look him up, he's one of the most famous psychic detectives there are. I would eventually meet John Edward as well, but I was
thinking of John J. Oliver, because I knew.
Oh, John Oliver,
because of the police detective stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is and it's so funny because I remember being 6 years old, sitting at my dining room table Sunday morning when nobody else was awake, and I'm sitting with playing cards, and I'm pulling them up and putting them on my head, trying to guess first the color, then the suit. So for me, cards was a big thing. And I remember trying to move a pin. I would put the pin and try to move it with my brain. Where do 6-year-olds get that? Just like you intuitively knew to look out of the corner of your eye. You know, so that's, and I imagine if you work with or study or are familiar with past and parallel lives, you know, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, because I've tried to get away from tarot cards and lenormand cards. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I use them in some other lifetime, because they are so part of me, and they never resonated with me until I started working with them. So tell us what your work is, what you offer to people. I looked at your website, but tell everybody here, you know, what you do and how they can find you, all that good stuff.
So I provide readings every day of the week from about 1 o'clock to about 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm located in Chicago, Illinois. I provide evidential mediumship readings for about an hour. I have multiple people can come if you're related. I'm also offering psychic readings via Skype or in person.
Cool. And are you doing this full time?
Yeah, I'm doing this full time. It's the only thing I got going on. So yeah, it took a long time, and I have to say too that as a reader, your normal job experiences all shape you as a reader too. Yeah. So I have a lot of experience in the manufacturing area, so I understand the corporate level and politics. Like I had you name the job, I've had it, but I also was able to have the pleasure of working in psychology and actually working with severely mentally ill people out of my state, probably the most severe demographic, in a psych ward for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And so it was always something, though, growing up. I always had the psychology interest, but as you hear in the field of psychics, they'll say, well, we wonder how many of those people are really intuitive. They do. They have some, part of their brain is shut down, so they do have these really amazing, sometimes they'll say stuff that was like, wow, well, there's something to that. There's some intuition there. But for the most part, it's they need help. And so it makes you a better reader, understanding the personalities and so forth. Just
like you talked about, like being in the corporate world, because I know how to talk to a VP or a director. And when people come to me, they'll start speaking. I'm the chameleon. I speak whatever language you have. There's very few languages, quote, in social, probably royalty would be the only one. And even then, I know exactly how I'd be. I'd just be myself, and they probably would be themselves, and we'd have a good time.
Yeah.
So tell us like your website, tell us radio shows, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll get to what's next going on in your life.
Excellent. So my website is marktroymedium.com. You can go there and find out everything about me. I also have a YouTube channel. If you just type in YouTube, put in Mark Troy Psychic Medium, you'll find a lot of videos on a lot of different things.
We'll put all of that. We'll put all those links down below in this video too, so they can just click on it too.
Okay. And I also do a radio show on Blog Talk Radio, Hidden Wisdom Radio. My host is clairvoyant Bernadette Dickinson, and so I do a lot of the Twitter stuff, the social media stuff, much like you, to provide sort of like a free resource for people, almost like it's like our volunteering. It's like something we're giving back, and it's important. I think one of the similarities, especially with me and you, is that we like teaching. Yeah. And I think through Twitter, through Facebook, through the YouTube videos, through even the radio shows and all those things, there's a certain element that we want to make sure the knowledge is there, and the ethics and all those things that are very much important. So it's not just all about just the readings. It's about what about the spiritual knowledge and all that good stuff that comes along with it. So that I feel is very important to put out there as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So tell us what's next. We talked briefly about it, but I know you're like me, and you're thinking like I have like 12 things written down, and because I still work in the corporate world, and there's my list. There's my list of things to do, and when I get to them, I check them off. So I know you got a bunch of stuff. So what can people expect from you coming up in the future?
A lot. Right now, I'm really trying to get out there to do public demonstrations, platform work as a medium. So I'm trying to do that basically in the Chicago, Illinois region, where I can go out and do the public demos, which I really believe that's where I'm going and headed down. So a lot of that will come, especially come next year. I'll be doing that a lot too. Cool. I have a book coming. that I'm writing, that I'm in the middle of writing, which will, talk about my journey, the spiritual, the mediumship experiences, but also I want to be able to really drive home the point that people really have intuition. It's much like, I always say, it's a lot like singing. Everyone can sing to a certain extent. I don't think I should go beyond the shower.
Yeah.
But I can sing to a certain extent. We're not all Pavarotti. But I think with even lessons, even no matter who it is, whether it's singing or whatnot, you get better. And your intuition is something everybody has. So I'd like to, if anything, give them the ability to sort of hone and tap into their own intuition. And I do believe that, not everyone is a medium per se that can give mediumship readings, but I do believe everyone has at least a link to their loved ones. Yeah. So I'd like that to be there too, So those are kind of the really important things that I really want to get to, and maybe one book, maybe even a second or third one. So that's on the horizon.
Good. And so it is.
And so it is.
Well, cool. Well, I tell you, Mark, this has been a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope people can connect with you on Facebook, on Twitter. Are you doing Instagram yet or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But I'll consider it. The
one that doesn't resonate with me is Tumblr. I can't figure Tumblr out. I finally started doing Vine only because they said that's where all the kids are. So
I gotta think about that too.
6 seconds though. 6 seconds. So, well, Mark, any final parting words before we sign off for the time?
Yeah. Basically, if I could part with any kind of knowledge, really, especially as we're headed into the holidays, remember that thinking too much and stress will cause you to shut down that great intuition everyone has. So the best thing I can kind of offer anyone in closing is really try to stay out of your head so much, clear your thoughts away, and really listen to your heart, your intuition, because you really do have all the right answers.
Yeah.
You just have to trust yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Mark, thank you so very much. Everybody, thank you for watching, and we say to you, namaste. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye now.